So if you hate liars and you don't want your kid to be a liar, lie to them through their entire fucking childhood to stop them being a liar.
I just need to add one of these here. That's the best observation.
Another tip for parents or prospective parents is have a plan for what you're going to call your kids' genitals.
Okay, that's interesting, yeah.
Because it's definitely something you need to consider, rather than just get to a point where your kid can speak and go, "What's that?" and points at it, and you've just got flustered and come up with something. Yeah, because you can't call it a cunt.
Yeah. Well, you could, but then you're going to fall into that trap of your kids going to school going, "Oh, I've got something wrong with me." No, you're going to bleep that out, yeah.
I don't know, maybe not.
Let's face it, a lot of people who do that don't end up as alcoholics or, dependent on alcohol. Yeah. You turned out all right. Well, kind of.
I like a booze. But yeah, not for breakfast.
Yes. My daughter, who hated most foods when she was small, literally eats most things now. Although she is a vegan now, and I think one of your daughters is a vegan. So.
Yeah. But we still love them. Hello, and welcome to the Mildly Controversial Podcast. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, you will see that me and him are in the same room. Now, I know that he's known for his camera trickery, but give me a hand.
Look, touching.
If I squeeze it really hard, he'll scream. So, we're in the same room. Not just any room. This is Baz's room. This is Baz's living room. And a beautiful room it is. So, we've spent roughly about 14 hours getting set up. So, we are here now. We're ready. Full disclosure, I've had 2.5 hours sleep because the only flight I could get here was 7 o'clock in the morning. I went to bed at 11:30 last night and woke up at 2 for my bus to the airport. So, if the second half of this podcast is just kind of some easy listening music and some pictures, it's because I've fallen asleep partway through it.
Well, as long as it's not me going, "Mike, wake up, Mike."
Well, it might well be. So, the first point of order today, Baz, is someone's bought us a beer.
Oh, come on. Really?
We love that. Right, so what I'm going to do, Baz, is, as I say, I've been travelling since 2 this morning, so I've had a lot of things, a lot of time to think, and also, a lack of sleep, so I've gone mildly insane. So I'm going to sing a little song, and I want you to join in because you will know it, okay? Right. Someone's bought a beer, Bedford Sean. Someone's bought a beer, Bedford Sean. Come on, join in. Someone's bought a beer, Bedford Sean. Oh, Bedford Sean. There we go. So we've had a beer bought for us from somebody in Bedford, and we're in Bedford. Yeah. It's a little bit disturbing that they might be watching us right now. Not on there. I mean, literally might be looking through the windows, peeping through the curtains. But yeah, we've had a beer sent from Sean from Bedford. And if you want to buy us a beer, by the way, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/mildlypod, or you can go to the website at daddancer.co.uk/podcast. There's a big button there that says buy us a beer. And we'll sing you a song. We'll sing you a song with your name in it, and Sean's name would have been scrolling across the top of the screen there as we sang that. So he sent us a message. He said, "I'm not a crazed superfan," which is good news, but he did put "yet," which is a bit disturbing. He said, "Enjoying the mildly controversial banter. Best of luck in new exciting levels of success. It's coming." I'm glad it says "it's" and not "he is." So, do you know Sean from Bedford?
Is it Shaun?
It is, yes.
Yeah, that's my school friend, Sean Hudson.
Oh, thank you very much, Sean.
Yeah, we've discussed the podcast.
Yeah, if any of my school friends or Baz's school friends or anybody who went to school or anybody who didn't go to school wants to buy us a beer, then, yeah, you know what to do. This week's episode, we are going to go back and revisit the subject of parenting.
Yeah.
We did a show on this a few weeks back, and we only got about halfway through the list of things we had to talk about. So, the idea behind this is, if you are a parent of young kids, or you are about to become a parent, or you're hoping to become a parent, we've got some real life. I hope that didn't come up on the mic.
It probably will do.
Did that come up on the mic? Let us know if that came up on the mic. That was me moving on the seat.
That's the sound of leather.
It's the sound of leather, not middle-aged man's bowels. So yes, if you are one of those people who is looking for some parenting advice, all of this is tongue-in-cheek, but there is an element of truth running through it.
Well, it's fair to say that a lot of it is from our experience, isn't it?
It is absolutely from our experience, and I hope it will help you. Okay, so the first thing that I want to cover is, and again, it's a serious point, but hopefully with a bit of entertaining, a dob of entertainment on top of it. The first thing I would say is don't feel guilty if you feel like you're not living up to being the parent that you thought you'd be.
Yeah, good point.
Okay, and I'll give you some examples. When my wife and I were expecting our first, not my first, but our first, we said we weren't going to use a dummy or a pacifier. There you go. There's a bit of a translation for our huge number of American listeners. But we said we weren't going to use a dummy. And it was like, there's no need. You're just setting yourself up for a fall. You've got to give it to them. But then there's going to be months and months of heartache when you've got to take it off them and all this. Chill the fuck out, guys. It really, really doesn't matter. I don't think I've ever seen a 20-year-old who's still got a dummy stroke pacifier.
Yeah, not in anything but a weird club anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Perhaps on OnlyFans. Who knows? Don't search that, by the way. But yeah, look, chill out about it. Like we said, we would never do that, right? And our experience was we're never going to use a dummy. All the way through the pregnancy. No, we're not going to use a dummy. First night home, Molly didn't stop fucking crying for hours. I went out at 2 a.m. to a 24-hour supermarket and bought about 15 of the fuckers. So yeah, that was one of the most short-lived we know what we're doing, even though we're new parents things that we had. Another one is we promised that we would not just sit them there on an iPad. And this was like quite... once we'd learnt from the dummy thing, you would have thought we would have learned don't believe your own preconceptions and things. We'd be out in pubs and restaurants and we'd see parents of kids from, I don't know, maybe 2, 3, 4 upwards at dinner, and the kids were on their iPads, and we were like, "Oh, we'll never do that. We're gonna make sure we have interaction with our kids. We're not gonna just sit and let Steve Jobs bring up our children." Listen to me right now. Buy an iPad, buy a spare iPad in case the first one breaks while you're out, and use them all the fucking time. Because when you're out, it's the only peace you will get is when they're sat watching some inane shite on an iPad or playing on a game. So it may not be the textbook example of how to bring up a kid, but it's the textbook example of keeping parents sane.
I have questions.
Oh.
So the first one, what was your reasoning for not wanting to go down the dummy route in the first place?
Like I say, we just thought they don't need them, and it was a case of they'll get so attached to it, you're just setting yourself up for a massive trauma of having to take away the dummy in the end. Look, in the end, it was a case of you're a big girl now. Let's give it to the dummy fairy, and we hung it up in a tree or something. We tied it into a tree with a ribbon, and in the morning it was gone and replaced with a toy. So it was dead easy in the end. And I just think, just don't. You spend your life worrying about things that just really aren't worth worrying about.
I like your preemptive buying lots of them in case they'd actually lost one and you could just get another one. And...
Oh, yes. We went from not buying any to buying shitloads. Yeah. And basically, we'd put her to bed because we started off with those ones that clip onto the sleep suit thing. Yeah. But that never worked because she always got rid of that. So we ended up resorting to putting her down for her sleep at night with a fucking halo of about 10 of them within arm's reach above her head.
I had a feeling you'd do that.
Yeah, absolutely. We went from no dummy to absolute fucking scattergun approach on it.
No, you probably developed one on a hydraulic ram that just sort of like from back into and zonk.
Not gonna lie, I did briefly weigh up the pros and cons and morality of gaffer taping once it was in.
Good shout.
or functioning some kind of elastic strap around the back of it. I quickly came to the realization that is very much not a recommended or moral thing to do. And the third thing that we said we would do is we said we would make our own baby food.
Yeah.
Puree our own veg, locally sourced if we could get it.
They'll eat what we're eating.
Yeah, don't fucking waste your time. You'll go through that and you'll beat yourself up for just throwing some fucking nuggets and chips at them just to keep them quiet.
Yeah.
But do you know what? Don't do it. They're not going to get scurvy. They'll be fine.
Well, one of the things I remember about feeding was I've got to call my daughter Brittany to keep her anonymous. Everyone who knows will know who it is. But so we tried to get her onto finger foods as soon as we could, just because. Well, for us it was easier. We didn't have to spend time feeding her, and I kind of think that ruined her dietary habits for quite a long time because. Yeah, she never got into anything with the sauce or anything like that, and would only ever like beige food.
Yeah,
but let's face it, kids love beige food. Don't they?
But your kid's not going to get malnutrition.
Yeah.
Ideally, you want to get veg in there, and if a kid likes a vegetable, fucking seize that opportunity and go with it. If you find your kid likes carrot sticks, crack on. My son loves broccoli.
Yeah.
But here's case in point. My daughter, who's now 13... No, sorry, the son's 13. My daughter is 15 going on 16. Up until about 2 years ago, wouldn't even look at a vegetable. Now makes her own lunches at the weekends, makes her own lunches for school. There's carrot sticks, there's peppers, like crudité.
Yeah, crudité.
Exactly.
Like that.
To take to school to dip into hummus and things like that. She makes her own pasta sauces with onions and peppers and things like that. So just chill; it'll work itself out.
Yeah. As a bit of a good advice, most times kids won't be kids forever, and they will end up eating like normal food. Even my daughter, who hated most foods when she was small, literally eats most things now. Although she is a vegan now, and I think one of your daughters is a vegan. So there'll be something in that.
But we still love them.
What else have you got?
Okay, the next thing I wanted to move on to is a word of warning when your kid gets to school age. There are two types of school. I was going to say school mum, because they do tend to be mums.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be sexist to say school mums, but I will say parents just to make it uber acceptable. But yeah, the first one is definitely a mum, because the first one to avoid is you will find some school mums who are mums and pretty much nothing else.
Yeah.
They have nothing else in their life other than the fact that they've managed to procreate.
Yeah.
Avoid them at all cost, because you will hear nothing but shit about their kid that you're just not interested in. They don't have hobbies, they don't have interests, they're not into sport, they're not into movies, they have nothing else to talk about. And don't get me wrong, I love my kids with all my heart. But I do have other things in my life.
Yes.
I do have other interests. I do have other things that I like to do, and things that I like to other people that I like to spend my time with. But yeah, these parents are just. I'm going to go as far as to say the mums that are like this they're almost like battery hens.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They've got nothing else to do other than spit things out the vagine. That's all they've got in their life.
Nicely put, Mike. So my recollection of this is when, and I won't say who, like, I've known people that have had kids, and they go from having vast, interesting conversations about all manner of things, and then from the day the child's born, every time they see you, it's just about little Johnny, or it's just about, Susan, or whatever the children's names are. Yeah. And you kind of go, remember, like, the thing you used to do? No. All that's gone now. Yeah, you have those people that their whole life is literally, and I'm not slating them. It's who's picking up the kids, who's taking them to whatever.
We are slating them back.
Yeah, well, no, it's more like pointing out, and this is the difference. I mean, I'm honest here that like my daughter didn't grow up fully with me. Myself and her mum split up quite early when she was quite young. So I don't have a lot of that sort of shared process where we've seen other people as couples kind of going, oh, look, Brittany can do this. She can do a handstand at the age of 3 months old, and look, she can recite the alphabet backwards from the day she was born. They're the people that irritate me more than anybody else, who just kind of want to go, oh look, here's no pressure on you, but look, can your child do this? Those people piss me off.
That is literally the second group of parents I'm suggesting to avoid at the school gates.
Well, there's proud, isn't there? And there's also that whole thing of, shitting on other people's children's ability.
There's a phrase I came up with. People will say, you didn't come up with that. I never read it anywhere. I did come up with it. I'm 100% sure it already exists, but I never came across it.
Yeah.
One-up mumship.
I've never heard that, so you invented that.
There you go. So, one-up mumship. Because, oh, Jesus, just the whole, is your kid talking yet?
Yeah.
Really? 12 months old? Oh, well, mine was going through Shakespeare's soliloquies at the age of 8 months. Is that the right thing?
Yeah,
soliloquy?
yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
there you go.
And if it's not, we don't care.
Yeah, fuck it. I knew there was a word there somewhere, but yeah, and it's just like, oh well, they've been walking since 6 months, and 2 years old and they're not walking. Oh dear. Oh, maybe there's something wrong with it. Oh, just fuck off, right? Do you want me to sit down and talk about all the stuff I can do that you can't? Just just avoid them at all costs. You'll find them pretty quickly, and then just make a mental note of them. Like on Terminator, when the little screen comes across with information about people.
Yeah.
Like, just get in your head, avoid this one. So every time you see them, that little phrase just comes up in front of your eyes, like, avoid
this one. Fuck you, arsehole.
Oh, just get out of the fucking way of them and just stay out of the way of them.
Oh, we should also level up on this one, because I've met many parents, and I love these people. They're the ones who go, nah, he's fucking dead thick. Can't do fuck all. He probably will one day, he'll be fine, but yeah, can't even feed himself at the age of 20.
Yeah. I would suggest, in all seriousness, try and find yourself somewhere in the middle of those two.
Yes.
not, he's fucking useless, I've given up on this one, we're going to have another one. I know he's only 3, but he's going to turn into fuck all, probably be in prison, so we're going to have another one. In between that and the one who thinks that they've given birth to the next Isaac Newton or something.
Don't get me wrong, I do believe that there are some child prodigies and, kids that are really good at football from an early age. Do you know what a lot of those kids go on to do? Absolutely fuck all like the rest of everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, look, you can take your kids to as many football practices as you like. You can take them to as many spelling bees in America. They're not a thing in the UK. As you like. You can take your kids to maths club and all that kind of stuff. But they might still be flipping burgers, so or doing other. No, fucking hell, I better take that out just in case there's a lot of Americans that's what they do for a living.
No, I think even in America, flipping burgers is seen as the sort of like the entry point to
it's the archetypal thing, isn't it? So whatever minimum wage job you like, insert minimum wage job of your choice into there.
Yeah, pot washing. Let's go for that.
Right, we better stop now, Baz, because anyone who works in the food industry or the or washes up for a living has now unfollowed us. So we should probably move on.
Oh.
My next piece of advice. You all right, Baz?
Yeah, I just got a rick in my neck.
Oh, Jesus. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what happens when you're 55 years old. You can't look without getting injured. Do you need a bit of time, Baz? Do you need me to go and get you some deep heat?
I've moved on, and I'm going to get a neck massager.
All right, well, we'll give it a go. My next piece of advice is, and this comes from personal experience. Okay, there will come a time when you decide it's the right time for your kid to have a mobile or a cell phone. There you go. Look at me translating.
Smartphone now.
Yeah, exactly. So there will come a time when you will decide it's the right time for your kid. For some people, it's 9, 10 years old. Some people, it's 12, 13, whatever. A word of warning. If you think that it makes financial sense to sign your kid up to a pay monthly plan rather than pay as you go, because it's cheaper, you get more data included and stuff. Word of warning. Just be clear that if you do that, you will be paying for fucking years. And like I say, I speak from experience. For my eldest daughter's 14th birthday, we got her a phone. and I signed her up to a monthly contract. She's going to get loads of free data. She's going to get all the perks of. It's the same cost as a pay as you go, so I might as well do that. So I did that on her 14th birthday. 3 months ago, she started paying her own mobile bill. She's 25 now. I didn't work out how much that has cost me over 11 years.
Yeah.
Just because I don't want to see what that number is. But it's thousands. So yeah, word of warning. By all means, get your kid a mobile. It makes perfect sense for safety and for to keep in touch, and kids interact with their friends through phones and social media and things like that. It makes absolute perfect sense. Just if you are going to sign them up to a monthly plan, just be aware that you're going to be paying that until they're about 25.
Well, just in relation to that business of when do you get their first phone? Yeah, I think mobile phones have just become that thing now where everybody has one. Doesn't matter if they're 7 or 8, if they can operate it and they can use it responsibly. There's a bit of advice for you: responsibly used. Yeah, I think it ceased to become an issue of when now. It's more like, I see that thing where people were like announcing online saying, "Oh yeah, I go through my child's phone to make sure that she's safe or he's safe or whatever." And there are other people that go, "No, well, don't do that. You've got to sort of they won't ever trust you again."
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
There's a balance to be struck. We don't monitor what our kids get up to on their phones. Hopefully, we've fostered a relationship with our kids that means they can open up to us about anything, and we trust them.
Yeah.
And we might be setting ourselves up for a fall at some point, but we kind of made the decision that it was better to do it that way than it was to be overly protective and people going through the messages and regularly kind of snooping on their own kids. I don't think that's a healthy thing for the parent or the child.
Yeah. Yeah, because let's be clear on this. Anyone who's ever been a child has kept secrets from their parents, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and most of the time they aren't world-ending or life-threatening things.
No.
I mean, I get. Let's just touch briefly on bullying on a very serious note. I guess if you were able to monitor that, then you'd probably get a handle on it quicker, because there have been some horrendous cases where kids have kept, they're being bullying. But you and I are both phone users, internet users, like. I'd never deny that from a young person or a child. I use the word young person. Kick me in the balls. Yeah, you should never deny that. And like I say, I agree that if you are going to go through the snoopers with their phone, you're probably ending a bit of trust that they're going to have in you at some point.
Yeah, and and if you don't trust them, then they won't trust you, and vice versa. And like I say, it's giving your kid that amount of leeway does come with an element of risk, but we weighed it up and just thought. Trying to forge a trusting relationship between parent and child is worth that risk.
So I think we're saying that the mildly controversial podcast is saying don't go through your kids' phones.
Don't go through your kids'
phones. Let them fuck up like we did.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously, put a smut blocker on it. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying complete open access to the entire internet. Because we know what's on the internet, and kids don't want to see. But kids might want to see it, but you don't want your kids to see a lot of the stuff that's on the internet. So obviously set up the sensible stuff. Set up block adult sites and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I wouldn't really. Like I say, I'm pretty confident that if our kids were ever getting bullied or were ever in any trouble, I'm confident they would come to us. And like I say, maybe at some stage we might be proved wrong on that, but it's a risk we're willing to take to have that kind of relationship of a trust both ways. And another thing, a similar thing is our 15-year-old daughter came to us 6 weeks ago and said she was going to an 18th. It was her sister's, as her friend's sister's 18th. And she was going along to this, and she wasn't staying the night. We were going to pick her up and all that. And she asked us if she could have one alcoholic drink at this party. And I was just like, That's a really awkward conversation to have, because I don't want to be those parents that completely forbids it. But equally, I don't want to be that parent who just goes, yeah, fuck it, go and get shit-faced.
Yeah.
So there is a balance on that one. But we were reassured at the fact that she'd come and asked us.
Yeah.
She hadn't just gone and just made her own decision. So we were able to get into a conversation, again, through giving a bit of trust, that she was able, she felt, if I ask my mum and dad, they're not just going to go, no, absolutely not. We can have a conversation about it. So it did allow us to have a conversation about it. So we said, you can have one drink. It needs to be, it's not free pour. It's, like a bottle of
gin.
So, a bottle of, red berries flavoured cider or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Something that's, that you know what it is, it's not free poured, all that kind of stuff. You can have one, and it got us into a conversation about that. So we were able then to say, the reason we're saying not free pour is that's when you can get into a situation where it takes over you too quickly and you go out of control. You might want to stop, but it's too late.
The reason I'm smiling here is because I've just got visions now of you seeing a photograph of your daughter at this party, and she's got one glass, and it's those ones that were out during lockdown. It's the fucking size of a fishbowl. So I'm just having the one. You said I could have one.
That's why we said no free pouring. So yeah, like this. But yeah, it's one of those things that is. If we'd have said no, absolutely not, at some point, peer pressure is going to kick in, and she's going to do it whether we like it or not. Maybe not now, maybe not next year, but at some point, this is going to build into being a taboo.
Yeah.
And going to be built into something it's not.
Yeah, exactly. I
think educating your kid in responsible drinking is a very healthy conversation, a very healthy lesson to sit down and have with your kids.
Yeah, and I think it's fair as well. From what I remember and what a lot of people have told me, and even kids themselves growing up, the first time they have an alcoholic drink, they kind of go, "What's this shit? What's all the build up about this thing? It tastes horrible." Yeah.
It's just that, and I don't feel great. We do need to point out again, because we have a significant number of followers and subscribers from the USA. Unless you didn't know, it's legal to buy and consume alcohol at 18 in the UK, not 21. So we're not suggesting, the conversation might be very different if we were in the States, and this is something you're not allowed to do till you're 21.
Yeah.
The law in the UK says you cannot buy or consume or buy it for somebody in a public place if they are under 18. There are no laws on the minimum age to give kids alcohol in the home. It's, you are trusted to be the parents that we're talking about. So nothing illegal happened. And we're literally talking about something that they can make their own decision in 2 years anyway. We're just helping them get to that point and kind of transition from being a kid into an adult.
Yeah, and let's face it, most teen drinking, if we're talking about teens, are done in quite small groups of friends that just get some booze and drink it with a friend's home. There aren't that many kids that go to pubs and get absolutely fucking slaughtered. Along with adults, and they're vulnerable. I know that to be true because I used to work as a doorman. So the odd person you'd ever find doing that was someone who particularly looked like they were 20 when they were 15, or even they were 17. So we're not advocating that your kids can go out and get pissed, but also if you make it a taboo subject, someone's at some point is going to go, I need to know this. What's going on with this?
Like I say, I think I think teaching your kid how to drink responsibly is an important thing.
Yeah.
Because I remember being shit-faced on the school fields at 15.
Yeah, exactly.
So my job is to make sure my kids don't do what I did.
Yeah, but also, let's look at it. Let's face it. A lot of people who do that don't end up as alcoholics or dependent on alcohol. Yeah. You turned out all right. Well, kind of.
I like a booze. But not for breakfast.
Yes, which leads you on to a little story. As I said earlier, we didn't share a house with my daughter on most of her growing up, and I remember getting a call from her mum one day saying, "He got sent home from school today." Sorry, Brittany.
I'll edit that.
No, leave it.
No, I'll bleep it. I'll bleep it. It'll make it dramatic.
So Brittany got sent home from school one day because she was found drunk in the morning when she got to school. So I asked her about this, and she just said that her and a friend wondered what it would be like to go to school drunk one day, so they just did it.
Wow.
On whiskey, of all things as well.
Wow. I wondered what it'd be like to go to school pissed.
But you can imagine that conversation like with you and your best mate at school going, look, we're not heavy drinkers, but we've had a little bit when there's just the two of us. I tell you what we'll do, let's go around to your house in the morning on the way to school and get fucking hammered on whiskey and then go to school.
Wow. I need to point out that when I said I got shit-faced on the school field at 15, it was one of those days, when there's an election and the school's closed on a Thursday. We had fuck all else to do. The parents were still at work and they were just like, yeah, I'll do what you want to do. So we went and bought, this will mean nothing to American listeners, but stick with us, little cans of Gold Label.
Oh, God, yeah.
Which is so strong, it's not even allowed to be called a beer. It's called a barley wine.
Exactly.
It's a 10% beer.
Yeah.
Which, again, I don't know if you do alcohol by volume in the States, but regular beer is about 4.
Yeah.
So this stuff was 2.5 times stronger than regular beer. And I've not touched it since. It tasted of petrol.
What you got next? We've done kids and alcohol.
One is I've got a number of things that have come from people on Facebook. So we've got a number of stories or tips for parents from our followers on Facebook. But I do. Is that something coming through the letterbox? Honestly, you don't get this on the happy hour, do you? I said that because we're going to see the happy hour live tonight.
Oh yes,
if you haven't listened to the happy hour podcast, it's shit. Don't watch it.
Yeah, don't give them a 5-star
Only
review.
listen to ours. It's not. It's really good. It's one of the most popular ones in the UK, and we're going tonight. Another tip for parents or prospective parents is have a plan for what you're going to call your kids' genitals.
Okay, that's interesting, yeah.
Because at some point you're going to have to come up with something.
Exactly.
And it's something you'll have to put an awful lot of thought into. But it's definitely something you need to consider rather than just get to a point where your kid can speak and go, "What's that?" and points at it. And you've just got flustered and come up with something. Yeah, because you can't call it a cunt.
Yeah. Well, you could, but then you're going to fall into that trap of your kids going to school and going, "Oh, I've got something wrong with me, cunt." You're going to bleep that out, yeah.
I don't know, maybe not. The Happy Hour podcast don't bleep the C word. So
I was thinking as well, though, because you can imagine if you just went with your son and, it's all right, just call it a schlong, lad, it's fine.
Just got a cock. One other thing is, if you live anywhere where snow is a possibility, so the UK is, and lots of areas of the States are, but when you've got young kids, you will dread it snowing. And the reason I say this is that there's a romantic ideal and a romantic image in your head of it's going to snow, it's going to be great, we're going to get wrapped up warm, we'll go outside, we'll build snowmen, we'll have snowman fights. It's wholesome fun that's for free and it's beautiful. In reality, what will happen is it'll take you hours to get your kid so wrapped up you can barely see any skin. And then within 5 minutes, they'll be cold and bored and wet fingers, wet toes. They'll go inside and they'll leave you to finish the fucking snowman yourself. In the experience of all 3 of my kids, that exact thing has happened. I've turned around 3/4 of the way through making a snowman, and my kid is inside in fresh, warm clothing, usually with a hot chocolate, watching me through the patio doors, freezing my balls off, making a fucking snowman I don't want to build.
I'm trying to think if that ever happened to me, but I think I just forced Brittany to come out and make snowmen with me, even if she wanted to go in, through tears.
I like to think that Baz, after this, that at some point you're going to call your daughter by the wrong name. You're going to call her Brittany because you get in your head, it's just going to keep tapping away that your daughter's name actually is Brittany.
Well, there's a reason I call her Brittany on this podcast, because one of my friends who's a listener to the podcast calls her Brittany to me all the time anyway. So.
Okay, there we go. That's good. That's like if you're if you're cheating,
yes,
then use a pet name you already used for the other one.
Or like me, you just have relationships with women called Liz.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's discuss those parents that co-parent.
Yes, I co-parented the first one.
Yes, so yeah. But I have a story of Brittany, just thought I'd bring her into it again. At some point when she got to that age, like after 13, where she didn't want to just come to me every weekend. She had friends at this point she wanted to go and spend time with. But we had a weekend where she told me that she was staying at home this weekend because she was supposed to come to me. But she'd also told her mum, conveniently, who was going away, that she was coming to me. So she ended up with a free house.
No.
I'd been at work all week and I'd just got home on a Friday. I'd literally got to the front door and the phone went. And it was like, Dad, quickly come. There's people in the house and they're stealing things. And I was like, what's going on? She said, oh no, we decided to have a little party and like it's all gone wrong. So I'm only about a mile away. So I hop in the car and I'm driving down there. And I'm not going to lie, I've got a baseball bat in the car because I think, I don't know what I'm going to find when I get there. What I do find as I'm driving down the road to her house is swarms of teens running up the road, like literally. In my head there was hundreds, but there's probably only 50 or 60 of them, all running up the road as I'm heading down there. So
with stuff?
Well,
with stuff under the road?
I couldn't tell at this
point. Like a fridge.
So anyway, I get to the house and I get out the car and there are still kids running past me, and I'm about to sort of like wade in, but I see a police car parked a bit further down. So I'm like, oh, hang on, go slowly. So I get there and I walk in the house, and in the living room are a couple of Brittany's friends, all looking a bit kind of, sheepish and sorry for themselves. And then I'm like, so where is she? And then they said, oh, she's in the kitchen with a police officer. And
Jesus.
I'm like, anyway, so I had a bit of a pop at these kids, said, look, how could you allow this to happen? And then when I went through, basically what they'd done, and I know there's been movies where it's been much worse than this, she decided to have a bit of a get-together with some of her friends. And then they decided to go on Facebook and, so just pop round and see so-and-so. So apparently the house got pretty much raided by like 50 or 60 kids from the local neighbourhood. And when it all went wrong, they were clambering out of the house, they took stuff and they were doing stuff. So
it was called gate crashing when I was a kid. And that's been happening for years. But thankfully, when I was younger, we didn't have social media and things, so word couldn't spread that fast. But I remember being at one of my mates' house. I'll give him a shout out, Wayne Shatwell.
Yeah.
I remember being at his house and there was a party there. We must have been 15, 16. I was a bit pissed. I was lying on the settee and some bloke came in with nunchuckers and started twatting me on the back of the legs.
Wow.
Yeah. Wasn't expecting that. So yeah, careful kids. Right, I think we should move on to advice and stories that we've been sent through the Facebook page.
Yep, good.
So yeah, if you want to get in touch with us through the Facebook page, head to Facebook and search for the Mildly Controversial Podcast.
Yeah, right. I think these subjects are never closed, even after the podcast.
Nope. If by the time this goes out, you head there, and there will probably be another subject we're going to talk about on a forthcoming one, so you can have a bit of input on that one. So, really quick one to begin with. This one comes from Everyday Jane. She says, when I was potty training my son, he used to pee on the floor and then tell me Captain America did it after laying an action figure next to the puddle. My comment to Everyday Jane on Facebook was, be careful of this child genius.
Yes.
This is an evil genius in the making.
I've got visions now of Everyday Jane's son sitting there just stroking a white cat.
Absolutely. There is the workings of that young child's mind.
I love it.
Need to be nurtured, and so that they don't turn towards evil, because that's potentially a very dangerous child. But yeah, good luck Everyday Jane with keeping them away from the dark side. The next one is kind of along the lines of careful what kids see.
Okay.
So this one comes from Suzanne Corliss, or Susan Corliss, or Susan. Frankly, I don't care less. So it's one of them. Take your pick on the pronunciation.
Nicely done.
While staying at my mum's house, one night my partner got up to go to the loo. Brackets, we'd been out and had a skinful. He got to the wrong room and got into bed with my dad. In brackets, mum and dad had single beds due to a health condition. Mum woke to the sound of stereo snoring. She put the light on and they were spooned together. After shaking Dad to wake him up, he opened his eyes and turned to see Ian snushed up behind him. And what I heard from my room was, "What the fuck?" After this episode, my nephew, who was around 6 years old, after overhearing us all talking about it, wrote a daily diary for school, and my sister got a phone call to come in to discuss. Because the kid's school diary entry said, "My granddad and Uncle Ian were in bed cuddling at the weekend." Careful what you can see, people. Careful what you can see.
Actually, can I just tell you with a really quick story just based on that as well?
Yes.
I used to live with a guy who was a mechanic, and he was telling me one day that the police came to his place of work. And I said, "Well, why was that?" And he said, "Well, because he'd been paintballing at the weekend, and his son had gone to school on the Monday and said that his dad had been shot." So the police went to visit him at his place of work. Anyway, I just thought.
Right, no, absolutely. I forgot that I have a story along those lines as well. When I found this one from Suzanne. As we said, I co-parented my eldest daughter Charlie, and I lived with my mate at the time, and he's called Rick. Shout out Rick Clapp, and. She's always called him, well, doesn't anymore, but always call him Uncle Rick or Uncle Clappy. One of those things. Until one day, we heard back from school that she often talked about Mummy and Daddy don't live with each other anymore. Daddy lives with his special friend, Richard. So,
you and Richard still friends?
Oh, absolutely. We're still special friends. We just don't live with each other anymore. We've moved on. And we're pretending to be happily married.
Not you and Richard.
No. Sadly not. Although, we still hold out hope. Okay, the next one comes from Yana West. And here's a tip to stop a kid from lying. She says, To stop a kid from lying, try my amazing trick. Our daughter tried to tell her first lie at age 1.5. She said she didn't get into something when we knew she did. So I got really close to her face and stared at the middle of her forehead for about 30 seconds, not saying a word. As soon as she started to get uncomfortable, I said, "Aha, I see it. You're lying to me. It's right there." She said, "What's there?" And I told her that there's this thing that I made up called the mummy dot, or the mommy dot. It's a dot that appears in the middle of the forehead of a child that lies to their mum, and only a mum can see it. The kid can't see it in the mirror. Nobody except for mum can see it. From that moment on, at least while she was really young, if she told the lie, her hand went up to her forehead, and she tried to hide that fucking dot. Oh, sorry, it says FRKN. So Yana's gone for freaking dot. I've just translated it to fucking dot. Sorry. And I instantly knew she was lying. Since I could always tell if she was lying, she almost stopped lying completely. She's 26 now and still involuntarily turns her head just ever so slightly if she isn't telling the truth. If you hate liars as much as I do, you should try this. Start as young as possible. It was pure genius the way it has worked so well for me. So my take on that is, in summary, Yana's tip is to stop a kid lying, lie to them for their entire fucking childhood.
That's the best point of that, isn't
it? So if you hate liars and you don't want your kid to be a liar, lie to them through their entire fucking childhood to stop them being a liar.
I just need to have one of these here. That's the best observation.
So sorry, Yana, it is a great tip. But yeah, you did lay it on a bit thick about how much you hate liars and don't want your kid to be a liar, but went through an entire story. That is the abridged version, by the way, of the story, where she just went on to describe how much of a fucking liar she was for years. The last one I've got from Facebook is from Stu Patterson. His story says, one day my wife had an early morning appointment at the gynaecologist. As she was preparing packed lunches for the kids and clearing away breakfast dishes, she got a phone call asking if her appointment could be brought forward for an hour to 9:30 a.m. This left her really short for time. So after dropping the kids at school, she didn't have time for a shower, so she gave herself a quick wipe with the face cloth down below. That means a wipe down below with the face cloth, not there's a picture of it down below. Don't go to Facebook expecting to see that.
Do go to Facebook to see if you can find it.
So she gave herself a quick wipe. I'll rearrange it so it makes more sense. So she gave herself a quick wipe down below with the face cloth before throwing it into the laundry bin. At the gynecologist's, she had her legs akimbo, hoping everything was going to be okay. The gynecologist said, My, we have made an effort this morning, haven't we, Mrs. Patterson? Phew, she thought, worry's over. Later that day, my daughter came in from school and she shouted down, Mum, where's the face cloth? Just get a clean one out the drawer, my wife replied. No, I need the old one. It's got my glitter and my sparkles on it from dance class. So, what an incredible story. Thank you, Stu Patterson, for sending us that story in, which definitely happened in real life. Or did it?
Okay.
A comment on that story said, the old ones are the best.
Oh, no.
So I suspect that is an urban legend. It is a myth. And Stu Patterson is a liar. And on that bombshell, that is where we will leave it for this week. Thanks so much for tuning in to the mildly controversial... fucking hell, we should have just called it The Podcast. I can say that. Thank you so much for tuning into the Mildly Controversial Podcast for another week. Don't forget to do all the subscribey shit. Subscribe, like, share it with your friends, share it with people you hate, do all of that kind of stuff. Get along to the Facebook page, the Mildly Controversial Podcast, and find out what our next subject is, and you can give us some stories that we might cover. If they're, preferably true.
Not necessary.
Not necessarily, but we do like the true ones best. Or rat someone out for lying while you're there.
Oh yeah, and also you find the link to buy us a beer.
Yeah, absolutely. The link for that is buymeacoffee.com/mildlypod. And don't be misled by the fact it's called buymeacoffee.com. You can buy us a beer there. Thanks again, everyone, for listening, and we will see you next time.